Okay, so if everyone's ready, we're going to start with the resolution on employment and social affairs. And who can I ask to read out the operative clauses? Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, but there has been also a textual change in the last moment. So, concerning clause number 9, I'm going to read out a new clause. Emphasizes the need to declare taxes for secondary sector industries, which have the ability to outsource production if they have their production facilities within the European Union. I'm going to repeat. The proposed change is emphasizes the need to declare taxes for secondary sector industries which have the ability to outsource production if they have their production facilities within the European Union. Okay, and now we are going to go on with reading the operative clauses. Who from the committee? May I add? Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear Presidency, distinguished guests, colleagues, and Mr. van Sminia. Resolution on the question of how should the European Union deal with rising youth unemployment in Europe. The Model European Parliament. 1. Request that the Committee of Economic and Monetary Affairs addresses the problem of company stability in light of the recent global recession. 2. Encourages the subsidy of businesses for employing young people who have been unemployed for a certain period of time. 3. Calls upon the European Union, in accordance with clause number 2, to oversee the presentation of governmental tax allowances to businesses based on the quantity and quality of internships and mentor programs that they offer. 4. Affirms that people who have been mid-term or long-term unemployed should attend government-organized traineeships with a level of state support appropriate to that able to be provided. In the case where there are insufficient funds, the European Union should subsidize such policy. 5. Further requests the European Union to start a campaign to increase the popularity of vocational education, referring to the work security of vocationally trained people. 6. Recommends voluntary work for short to mid-term unemployed in order to prevent them from suffering from psychological and physical problems, and at the same time making the volunteers more attractive on the labour market. 7. Strongly encourages member states to invest in infrastructure with the purpose of increasing the interest of foreign businesses in European industries, resulting in higher levels of foreign investment. 8. Further request the European Union to award low-interest loans to entrepreneurial young people on the condition that such individuals complete training programs focused on starting companies. 9. Emphasize the need to decrease taxes for secondary sector companies if they decide to keep their production facilities within the European Union and thus offer jobs. 10. Urge member states to adapt their education system to enable an equal level of language competence all over the European Union. 11. Further recommends the creation of a common career counseling program based on the workforce needs of the European Union as a whole, which would be responsible for aiding young people seeking employment. 12. Instructs the President to forward the resolution to the European Parliament, the European Commission and the Council of Ministers. Thank you.
Thank you. And who from the committee may I ask to for the speech in favor of the resolution? Belgium.
Thank you. Excellencies, Honorable President, Committee Presidents, Vice President, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen. We have a dream that the youth unemployment will be over one day. During the last days, the Committee of Employment and Social Affairs tried to find a way to make this reality. Our resolutions deals with several causes of youth unemployment. In order to decrease the number of youngsters which can't find a job and to prevent them from the consequences of being unemployed. And I would like to stress the fact that somebody is youth unemployed when he or she can't find a job, although they want to, and he or she is between 60 and 24 years old. Youth unemployment is a big problem in Europe today, so we have to act now. And if you let pass our resolution, we will act now. If you let pass our resolution, we will do even more. We found solutions that will have an immediate effect, but we also found solutions that will have a long-term effect to solve the structural problems of youth unemployment. The most important thing of a resolution is that it has to be a good solution for all the countries of the European Union. And that's the strength of our resolution. Every country will benefit of it. And once more, I would like to say the definition of youth unemployment, because it's really important. It's someone between 60 and 24 years old who can't find a job but who wants to work. Together we can solve the problem of youth unemployment. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Belgium. And now we continue with factual questions. Keep in mind that the questions have to be short and they have to be factual. Thank you. Belgium, 115.
Thank you, Madam President. Can you please repeat the textual change, because I believe they might have hidden an amendment in a textual change to avoid voting.
I may. Emphasizes the need to decrease taxes for secondary sector industries which have the ability to outsource production if they have their production facilities within the European Union. Should I repeat it again? Do I need to repeat again? Just nod if yes. Thank you. Sweden, number 7.
Or number 7 is Estonia, thank you, Madam President. And my question is about OC number 4. What do you mean by government-organized traineeships? Should they be government-funded, or should the programs of traineeships should be worked out by the government? Thank you.
She asked whether the traineeships should be government-funded or private-funded. Italy.
They should be governmental funded.
Slovak Republic 30.
Thank you, Madam President. In ICG, I want to know what sort of physical problems do you mean?
Belgium.
Thank you, Mrs. President. When you have mental problems like depression or something like that, they will result in physical problems. There is a name for the disease, but I forgot it. I'm really sorry. But the disease is a result of mental problems like depressions and things like that. Thank you.
Delegate 6, Sweden.
Thank you, Madam President. Referring to the operative clause 4, could you please define long-term unemployment?
Austria.
Thank you, Madam President. Long-term unemployment is defined by people who are unemployed for 1 year or more.
Delegate 95, Finland.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question concerning OC2. What does the committee mean by certain period of time? What period of time?
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. By a certain period of time, we mean a prolonged period of time in which they've been unemployed. However, we've yet to put a number to that certain period of time, which we believe will be later done if the resolution is passed. But it will be a prolonged period of time, in the region of long-term unemployment. Thank you very much.
Delegate 119, Cyprus.
Thank you, Madam President. Can the committee clarify what they mean by the word vocational in clause number 5?
Sorry, can you rephrase your question?
Yes. Can the committee clarify the word vocational in clause number 5, operative clause number 5?
Yes, Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. For vocational training, either education, we mean a school, a kind of school where you receive basic skills for a specific job, which is a practical job. And we ask the delegate to review the appendix. Thank you.
Delegate 43, Lithuania.
Thank you, Madam President. Regarding the 10th OC, I want to ask what's the language that you're suggesting for all European Union, and what is the level for the language that people will be competent enough to speak it?
Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. The language is at the discretion of each country, while the levels are the ones that are already established internationally as A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, according to the school they are attending. Thank you.
Delegate 102, Austria.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question to the Presidency. Sorry, I have a question to the Presidency. Is such a textual change estimate possible?
I don't have the resolution with me, so I don't actually know what did they change there. But yes, they can actually change the text even if it changes the meaning of the clause.
So they can write their own amendment?
Is it totally new?
Yes, it is.
Well, we are going to deal with the question a little bit later and talk about the factual questions. But your question will be answered.
Thank you.
So, Delegate Macedonia.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question pertaining to OC number 6 about the voluntary work. Is it optional and mandatory, and how is it going to prevent the youth from physical and psychological harm?
Hungary.
Thank you, Madam President. It's optional, so they can choose whether or not they want to do voluntary work. Thank you.
Delegate 75.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question in connection with OC2, that what does it mean exactly, certain period of time? Thanks.
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. I believe we've already addressed this problem. However, if you didn't hear or weren't listening, I can go over it again. A certain period of time would be a prolonged period of time, so pertaining to long-term unemployment. However, the figure, the exact number, has yet to be decided and would be reviewed after the resolution if it was passed. But it would be in the region of long-term unemployment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Delegate number 51.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President, for the word. Can you explain in the ICC what do you mean by security job for young people? Thank you.
Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. We mean by security, we mean when companies aren't stable, the young people are the first one who get fired. We don't want this to happen, so we think that's a really big problem.
And now there's going to be the last factual question. Delegate 80.
Thank you, Madam President. I congratulate for the idea of voluntary work, but I don't understand why you say that voluntary work may prevent people from suffering from physical problems.
Latvia.
Thank you, Madam President. We think that if you engage in the community life and you feel that you are doing something productive with your time and also give back to the community and engage in a physical work, this will not cause such mental diseases as depression, and therefore this wouldn't lead to physical illnesses. Thank you.
Thank you. We now hope that we have the answer for the textual change question. Dear co-president, do we have answer for the textual change question? Was it allowed? Yes, it is allowed and it stays like it is. Thank you. So, we are now moving forward to amendments, and can the person from Slovak Republic come here who proposed amendment on employment and social affairs?
Thank you, Madam President. Please just take your resolution and look at the OC number 2. Firstly, it doesn't sound bad, because it would be a very easy way to solve this problem. But there are several questions which are not taken under consideration. The first thing is that such a subsidy would create an age discrimination. Peter is 26 years old. He just finished his study, he applied for a job, but he wouldn't get it because an 18-year-old boy would be cheaper for the company. There would be a discrimination. But shouldn't all people are created equal without regard of their ethnicity, of their sexual orientation, of their gender, without regard of their age? Furthermore, this regulation would also discourage people to study on university, would discourage them to do something for their education. But we also need to keep in mind that companies might exploit and abuse such a system. Businesses will make old employees redundant simply to hire young people to get the government's aid. In addition, there wouldn't be created new jobs. If young people get the jobs, there wouldn't be any left for the old people. So you wouldn't solve the problem, you would change the problem. So summing up, I would like to delete the whole OC because of the many negative side effects. The age discrimination and the exploitation. Thank you.
Thank you, and we're talking about the clause 2. In case it was hazy. So who can I invite on the floor from the committee? Italy.
Thank you, Madam President, for the word given. This amendment is absolutely not discriminatory against youth, since youth, as we already said in the factual questions, are the first ones who are fired. So this constitutes a very big problem in our society, since this could cause lost generation. This is the biggest fear of our committee and of the International Labour Organization. So this is not a discrimination. This is just helping people who need help. So, second of all, subsidies from the states would help companies to hire youth, and this is extremely positive. And if companies don't hire youth, we don't have a young labor force. And if we don't have a young labor force, our country as a European Union won't develop. And if we don't develop, we will lose our primary sector in the world role. Reluctant for side effects. There are absolutely no side effects. This wouldn't create absolutely side effects for the reason that young people being encouraged to work would attend vocational schools, and if they would attend vocational schools, they would have more skills, and if they had more skills, they will be able to get a higher salary, and if they get a higher salary, our country as the European Union will get richer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, delegate from Italy. And now we continue with voting. I again remind you, it's just in favor or against and no abstentions. remaining 8 people, please. Yeah. With 83 votes in favor, 50 votes against, with approval of Turkey and former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia, this amendment has passed. So everyone delete the clause number 2. And now we are going to continue the open debate. Keep in mind that if your question has been answered, you can press the button again, which is S, weird O, N, and A. Just push the button and you are going to go away. If you push it all the time, then it will appear and then go away, so it's not very useful. And delegate number 44, you pushed the wrong button. Thank you. Delegate 71, Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question about OC10, because you want to make language education the same level in the whole European Union. But wouldn't that affect countries which have a high level of education in a negative way?
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. No, we don't believe so. We want them, obviously, to have kind of more equal skill level in languages. However, we wouldn't want to do that to the detriment of the countries who already have a high skill level, merely kind of push up, increase the skill level of those who don't. We're not suggesting that we try and make one country worse, just that we try to improve some to the kind of highest countries level. Thank you.
Delegate 88, France.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is about clause number 8. What organ is going to award these low interest loans you're talking about?
There has been point of privilege.
In clause number 8, you're talking about like the European Union is going to award low interest loans, but what organ is going to award them?
Belgium.
Thank you, Mrs. President. We just say the European Union because there can be several organs who can subsidize, or we can make a new organization who can subsidize the companies. So it's just that the European Union should subsidize the organizations. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate from Bulgaria, 106.
Thank you, Madam President. My question concerns operative clause number 7. How can infrastructure possibly play like a main role in increasing the interest of the foreign business in European industries?
Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. Investing in infrastructures in Europe could actually cause a very big interest for foreign companies who come to Europe. Actually, this is for the reason of, because in Europe, if the infrastructure and the country as a European Union is very developed, companies find interest. As an example, the United States of America. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Delegate 77, Ireland.
Thank you, Madam President. I wish to propose a question concerning Clause 10 once more. To have an equal level of language competence all over the EU is a highly confusing and completely unfeasible clause. Which language are you proposing to perhaps, I think, force on EU citizens? Have you taken into account nationalist tendencies, the culture of the people, and unfriendly relations between certain countries? And lastly, I wonder who and how you will test this competency of all EU students and their teachers who actually teach them.
There has been point of privilege. Maybe you can choose one question and...
Okay. I just think the whole clause is completely confusing. I think I misunderstood it because I do not understand what language you are proposing to have a competency in, and I wondered as well how you propose to manage this level of competency.
Thank you. Portugal.
Thank you, Madam President. With this OC, what we are trying is to get and make a high feeling of union in the European Union. We are going to give more or less the same importance to the whole language in the European Union. We are not going to give a special importance to English, French, Dutch, no. We are going to try to give to the whole European citizens to have knowledge in each single language that in the European Union you can speak.
Thank you. Delegate 67, Ireland.
Thank you, Madam President. In regards to Clause 6, a question was answered saying that this voluntary scheme is optional. So I was wondering, if it is optional, how will this benefit the young people who don't participate in the scheme?
Can you please speak a little bit slower?
Yeah. In regards to Clause 6, a question was answered saying that this voluntary scheme is optional. So if the voluntary work is optional, how will this benefit the people who don't participate in it?
Hungary.
Thank you, Madam President. We already have a committee whose job is to popularize voluntary work, and we find it a good solution. You can make voluntary work mandatory in such way that you do it every year, because that's not voluntary work. You are not volunteering for it. You are being forced to do something. That's not voluntary work. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate 40 from Slovak Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question concerning OC 8. You say that you want to give low-interest loans to young people, but don't you think that if they get loans so easily, they won't be able to pay them back, and so it will be very bad for them?
Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, if you read the OC, they're standing that such individuals complete training programs. So the young people who wanted to start a company and that want a loan, we will check them if they will succeed it. We won't give loans if they won't pay it back.
Thank you. Former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia and the boy who raised it first, yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. In Operative Clause 6, you propose voluntary work and you opt for making it more popular on the labor market. Now, in order to do that, actually voluntary work would if you make volunteer work more popular, corporations and other companies would actually support it and require it, and therefore other types of work that are offered that would actually get paid would become redundant. So we are actually contradicting yourself with your statement. Thank you.
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. It sounded an awful lot like the delegate was trying to say that voluntary work may become more popular than paid work. I find the concept quite confusing, really, because I personally would always opt to work and get paid for working than work for free. I think what is meant by the clause is that we want to popularise voluntary work so that people who are unemployed, instead of being isolated and doing nothing, they're continuing to do something to keep up their skills that they have prior to unemployment learned, either in school or vocational education. And it also makes them more included within society. It doesn't lead to their social exclusion, which could lead to depression and other psychological problems, like we have stated. Many thanks.
Thank you. Delegate 35 from Portugal.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to ask the committee, because they haven't said anything about overqualification. What about those youngsters with a high level of studies who can't find job due to the fact that there's too many people in their same profession?
This person asked, what are going to do the young people who are working on a field that there are too many people? For example, if you're a lawyer and too many lawyers. Latvia.
Thank you, Madam President. We think that in order, the problem in the European Union, why some people who are highly qualified and can't find a job, is because the mobility of the labor force is very bad, and we want to improve that mobility of labor force within the European Union by unifying this language skills and all those other great propositions we offered in our case. So I think that if this person is really highly qualified, she should have this bigger access to the whole European market. Thank you.
Delegate 113 from Belgium.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, in clause number 9, what's the point of clause number 9? Because you say if their facilities are located within Europe, every company of the secondary sector gets lower taxes, which means a giant loss for the government. So you create a protective and a nationalistic economy, but you want to encourage the other countries to come to Europe. So if you want to create a protective economy and then you increase the infrastructure of Europe so that other companies from other continents can come, they won't, because Euro has no value when you only have a protective economy.
Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, we changed OC9, so I think Belgium should read OC9 because we've changed it in secondary sector industries which have the ability to outsource productions. So it isn't a big market, it's just a secondary sector which have the possibility to outsource production. It's just a small sector.
Thank you. Delegate 81 from Denmark, but wait a little bit.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have I think there is a problem with the solution in clause 4, that those traineeships, they don't necessarily focus on
what the unemployed are good at, but maybe it is just like irrelevant work that they are put it into just to activate them. And for example, in Denmark, we have tried this solution, and the unemployed people felt treated like fools because it wasn't in their area those traineeships were concentrated about.
Thank you. United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. I think the clause says it's based on quantity and quality. Obviously, we don't want traineeships just to be there just because companies can make money out of it. They've got to be high quality traineeships relevant to something. The quantity of these increasing generally will mean that there will be more courses relevant for different occupations, and the quality will be good. They will not be treated like fools. If they are, then the companies will not receive the tax decreases. Yeah, basically, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate number 7 from Estonia.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question about OC number 7, where you mention the investments of foreign businesses, and my question is, why are you focusing on foreign investments instead of both foreign and domestic investments? Thank you.
Can a speaker please?
Yeah. So my question is, why are you focusing in your clause on foreign investments instead of domestic investments as well?
Italy.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, in the clause there is written that this would help even domestic investments, since the infrastructures will be in the European Union and they would be built by European Union companies. Second of all, when they're built infrastructures, as I said before, the European Union would be more developed, and in being more developed, there would be more investments within the European Union from foreign countries' companies. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Italy. Delegate 57, Maltese delegation.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to draw the attention of the Assembly to the operative clause 4, number 4, once again. The committee wants to organize traineeships for young people who have been unemployed. Also, it's a really good proposal. I don't understand how they would organize it without spending too much money. So I think we need a more specific division among people unemployed in order to know their real knowledge, their abilities. The most important is, in my opinion, the motivation. And so, in order to reward the best one. Thank you.
Can you please state the question?
So, we want to organize a traineeship, but we can't do it for every young unemployed. We need to decide what is the borderline. So we need to divide the one that can find a job because they are motivated, because they have the knowledge, and the one that haven't it. Okay, thank you.
Czech Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. Well, you think only the motivated young people are going to take the training chips, and it is important that not every young people, not everyone has not work, and only the motivated people are going to do the training chips. So thanks.
Thank you, Czech Republic. I encourage delegates from Turkey to maybe participate more in the discussion.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
It concerns the question OC9, and can you repeat the change in OC9 first? Like there was a textual change.
Yes, I do know that. We are not going to discuss about the textual change.
No, can you just repeat it, because my question concerns actually the OC9.
emphasizes the need to decrease taxes for secondary sector industries which have the ability to outsource production if they have their production facilities within the European Union.
Okay, we want to ask that why don't they want to expand and make these people have job opportunities in other countries, and why do we want to have these job opportunities only in European Union but not in other countries? In the end, they're youth, they're European youth, and they can have job opportunities in other countries as well. Thank you.
Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. We don't want to do this because we want the European people to work in Europe. We don't want the knowledge of Europe go to other countries. We just want to improve Europe. So we're searching for jobs in Europe, and we want to make jobs in Europe, not in other countries.
Thank you. Delegate number 16 from Sweden.
Thank you, Madam President. Referring to OCs number 5 and 10, are these measures intended at making people apply for work abroad? If so, couldn't this hurt the labor markets of the countries where these citizens move from, weakening them further during economically hard times, as well as putting more pressure on the labor markets of other countries?
There have been several points of privilege cards, but as there are people who want to answer, then Hungary, you can answer the question.
Thank you, Madam President. Basically, this helps the whole economy of Europe, so I don't think it should be a problem.
Thank you. Delegate 64.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I would like to state Hungary's support for the points 8 and 10. And also, I would like to pose a question concerning the AIC. My question would be, well, yeah, it's more of an opinion than a question. It would be namely that, do you think that lowering expectations for certain positions at companies would help us accomplish more as an economy in general? I'm talking about broad terms. I mean, if you take certain jobs and you decide to put lower expectations and you urge companies to lower their expectations for certain positions, that would only, first of all, I believe, decrease the quality of the work being done. And second of all, who is to decide whether which position should have lowered expectations and which one shouldn't? How do you differentiate between positions that are...
Please rephrase your question, or choose only one.
Okay, my question would be more exact. How do you differentiate between jobs, between positions, certain positions at companies that should have lowered expectations, as stated in the points? I don't know which IOC, and which positions should not have lowered expectations?
Finland.
Thank you, Madam President. We were not focusing about the lower expectations, but more about that the people are supposed to get traineeships and volunteer, so that they get that they get the knowledge that they need for the work. Is not about expectations being lowered, it's more about the employees getting the knowledge that they need for the job before. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate 23 from Poland.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a more general remark concerning your resolution. As colorful as it is, the dream you've presented to us, I believe it's quite unrealistic. In face of the current economic crisis, governments encounter their own economic problems as well. And with the lefty, or maybe, well, socialistic will be a too strong word, but the character of your resolution, how do you imagine governments such as British to support or approve such a resolution? Thank you.
Hungary.
Thank you, Madam President. Basically, we want to create a labour market based on the needs and the supplies of each country separately. So basically, if Britain has enough, let's say, plumbers, then maybe then we won't be sending them plumbers. So do you understand that?
More general. I was just thinking about points like point 7 with a New Deal policy. You try to encourage the member states to introduce. How would it be supported by the governments who don't have money themselves? For instance, Portugal. How would Portugal well, invest in infrastructure with the purpose of increasing the interest of, and so on?
I wanted to mention that we're not discussing about whether or not Portugal has enough money to pay for the
yes, I understand
resolution.
That. But still, it is a matter of spending money of the European Union. So I'd like to ask, about the support of spending more money.
If you have been given floor, please refer to Madam President. Thank you.
Can I answer?
Yes, you can answer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Basically, if they don't have enough money to fund it, the European Union shall provide them with funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate 119 from Cyprus. But wait until your microphone goes on.
Thank you, Madam President. Previously, a delegation from the committee mentioned that they want to promote the European citizens to learn as much as possible from all the languages of the European Union. So how is it humanly possible to do this?
Greece.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to, we have talked about the traineeships and the programs. We just want to help people, and money isn't our case. We can spend as much money in this project, so we're here at MEP, not at the real European Parliament.
Thank you. Speaker 58 from the Netherlands. But wait until your microphone goes on. 58.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a question about OC5. You want to increase the popularity of vocational education. Isn't it better to stimulate higher education? Because that will firstly attract foreign investments more, and it will give the young unemployed meet the expectations that are so high.
United Kingdom.
Thank you, Madam President. The point of the OC is the fact that currently we believe expectations are too high. People don't really want to go into vocational training. We need people to be in vocational training because an economy cannot function without your plumbers, your electricians, such people who have the specific skills that they require for the job at such vocational schools. So we're of the opinion that we already have many people who are taking higher education, many people going through university. And we don't necessarily think that that is a bad thing, because obviously we want people to be as bright and as intelligent as possible. However, we're just highlighting the fact that for the economy to function efficiently, we will also need plumbers, electricians, people who study vocational schools. Thank you.
And now we're going to take 3 questions more. Delegate from Turkey.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is concerning the OC number 9. Don't you think that decreasing the taxes for only the secondary sector is a kind of discrimination against the other sectors? Thank you.
Latvia.
Thank you, Madam President. We think that this kind of change would make the ground even more fairer for all the companies, because as we know that the companies who right now outsource have the ability to have a cheaper labor and to sell them their products more cheaply. So the communities of Europe will buy them. But if we lower the taxes for the companies who provide jobs within the European Union and who also produce here, this will even encourage them to stay in the European Union and to create more jobs. So in the long run, it will create more jobs. Yes, thanks.
Thank you. Delegate 100 from Germany. Wait until your microphone goes on.
Thank you, Madam President. My question refers to OC6. Is there no risk that companies want to employ voluntary workers instead of paid workers?
Is it possible that the companies are going to employ volunteers rather than paid workers, was the question. Belgium.
Thank you, Mrs. President. Nobody's going to do a job when he can get paid for it. Voluntary work is like doing something good for the community, and it's not like working for a company. I don't think that I will go working for a company for free if I can get paid for it. Thanks.
Thank you. And the last question goes to United Kingdom, number 9, and wait until your microphone goes on. Number 9.
Thank you, Madam President. My question refers to OC11, which talks about the creation of a common career counselling programme based on the workforce needs of the European Union as a whole. I'd like to question why the committee is looking at the European Union's needs as a whole, because wouldn't the workforce needs individually be more effective to address as opposed to looking more generally?
Yes, Austria.
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to create a market, like a labor market for the EU as a whole, because we can then control the whole market in the EU and create a smoother flow of workforces within the EU. So if there is in one country there are maybe too many workforces of one kind, we can move them to another country. So we can overlook everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is the end of open discussion. So push Suna if you want to make a speech against this resolution. Push the button. Just push it once and then don't do anything. So now you can push the button again. We had a little problem. Could the delegate from Bulgaria 107 come and make the speech?
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution, I feel there's many things that are I guess plain wrong with it. In terms of the volunteering, for example, you get psychological problems and therefore physical problems only when you are unemployed for a long period of time. So that would be long-term unemployment, not short-term and mid-term unemployment. And with the languages, that was not addressed at all. What do they mean? Learning all the languages of the European Union, or that each country should know its own language? And low interest rates, I think their point at the beginning was giving loans to unemployed young people so they could have more money, but later they said they'll give low interest rates only to people who can pay them back, and those would be people who are working, and those things just don't make sense, and I feel that they're major enough of issues to make this resolution not useful, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, delegate from Bulgaria. Now, who can I ask to carry out the speech in favor? United Kingdom.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President. Esteemed guests, honourable delegates, rising youth unemployment across Europe is currently a problem of colossal significance. We know this because it could lead to a lost generation. This is the idea that people who are not able to become integrated into the workforce at the point in their life when they're entering into the workforce may later in life become apathetic towards employment. And this would obviously have catastrophic consequences for our future economic situation. I think that our resolution actually deals with it quite well. I want to discuss points raised about clauses which may not be particularly good. I believe there is a point raised about clause, well, many points raised about clause 10, which basically what we mean by this is there will be no one definite language that all countries have to adopt. It will be at the request of the country will be able to decide what their secondary language is. We're merely saying, though, that we wish to have an equal level of these secondary languages. So we wish there to be a system adopted which is, covers all EU countries to distinguish different levels of language competence. However, these will be applied to the second language, and the second language can be chosen by the countries. Moving on to clause 6, I believe the previous delegate said that we won for short-term to mid-term unemployed. Surely the problems are only suffered by those who've been in long-term unemployment. Yeah, you're right. These problems are as a result of being long-term unemployed. However, we believe that the solution should be carried out in the short to mid-term because we do not want these psychological problems to occur in the first place. Preemptive action is the only action in this case. So I believe that the clause is actually particularly good because it would prevent these problems from happening. Clause 9. There's been a lot of confusion over Clause 9, I feel. Emphasises the need to decrease taxes for secondary sector industries which have the ability to outsource production if they decide to keep their production facilities within the European Union. We're basically saying that secondary sector companies, so the industrial companies who outsource their production, obviously if their production was inside Europe, it would benefit us greatly and that there would be a much bigger job market in Europe. And we believe that this would not discriminate between sectors, as a point was raised, because sectors are in competition with each other. The point is, the secondary sector deals with industry, tertiary with knowledge. We're saying that currently our industry sector is, most of production is being outsourced to countries outside of the EU because the production is cheaper. We wish to encourage companies to keep their production facilities within the EU so that we can have more jobs and try and solve the unemployment problem. There's also Clause 8. The previous delegate said that they didn't believe it was a particularly good idea. However, I don't think that they fully understand what was meant by the clause. The clause says that individuals can complete training programs focused on how they can start companies, and only then can they be awarded the low interest loans. We're not saying that money should be handed out to anyone who wants it, because obviously that would be a terrible idea. However, we believe that if they've completed, we believe that currently they're discriminated against by banks because banks believe that young people are more likely not to be able to pay back the loans, and this is obviously a problem because it discriminates against the young. So we believe that if we can educate them, then give them the means to self-employ, we believe that this is a very good thing and would be very effective in helping solve the problem of rising youth unemployment. So really, we really genuinely urge you to pass this resolution. The problems that could be caused by a lost generation are catastrophic. They would affect us all, and they would affect us very badly. So we believe that the clause does address the problem for the reasons I've just said, where there was questions raised, and therefore we would urge you all to vote in favour of the resolution. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, delegate from United Kingdom. And now we start voting. So push the green button if you're in favor, push the red one if you're against, and push the yellow one if you want to abstain. So 54 votes in favor, 59 votes against, 19 abstinence. With approval of the presidents, with disapproval of the candidate countries, this resolution has been rejected.